Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to USA Powerlifting's Pro Series Finals 2024. You are here for a big-time show because we have the Raw Open Finals. 11 competitors right now coming up in one flight where we've mixed the men and women together. Let's do some introductions real quick. I'm going to be a little bit more of your play-by-play guy today. My name is Alex Walters. I'm the Indiana State Chair. I'm also a member of the Executive Committee, and I am joined by...
My name is Dane Roach. I'll be doing more of the color commentating, if you will. I am a member of the Technical Committee, a coach, and soon to be, as of January 1st, the State Chair of Michigan.
Right on. All right. First attempt. Bar is loaded for Leanne Lee. We have 125 kilos. 275 pounds here.
And looking through Leanne's history, this looks like the heaviest she's ever opened on squat. So interesting to see where she goes from here and if she's setting herself up for a beat.
Gets her start command. That moved like an opener should.
It looked great. It looks like she's setting herself up for success for sure.
3 white lights there for Leanne's opener. Bar is going to move on up now to 160 kilos, the opening attempt for Bria Williams.
This isn't that far off of Bria's best, which is 176 kilos. So depending on how this moves, we got 2 pretty big openers to start off with.
And this is definitely going to be the place to do it. Men and women competing for a very large prize, $15,000. To the top lifter based off dots. Bria taking her time to get that unrack.
Still about 20 seconds left on the clock.
Looks a little close on the depth there. Let's see what the officials say. She's going to get the lift 2-1 though. Chief referee did call her from depth, which, to be fair to us, that's our perspective on this monitor.
Yep. It was definitely right on the border. Could have went either way.
Next, we're going to have the opening attempt for probably the competition favorite. She won the Pro Series Finals last year. Mesa Gill opening up at 165 kilos.
May's best is 172.5, so again, opening up close to her personal best, which could be setting her up for a pretty dang large PR here.
Depth looks pretty solid from up here in the booth.
Moved well. Referees agree.
3 white lights there for her. All right, so now we're going to have the opening attempt for Christy Hazard, 177.5 kilos, 391. This is a massive opener. Following along with her training lately, she's pretty poised to hit something kind of nutty and try to give May a run for her money today. Very solid walkout.
Moved very well.
3 whites, undeniable depth. It moved great.
It did. Very curious to see where she jumps there. I wouldn't be surprised to see 10 plus.
Since they can chip, but the chip doesn't really do much for him, I'd like to see her jump straight to 190.
Yeah, it's not a bad move in the chip. The only way really here, based on formula, the chip's going to help you is if it's a very close battle at the end, getting those extra 10th of a dot point or 100th of a dot point.
Next up, we're going to have the opening attempt for Dane and I's fellow Michigander, Kira Thompson, formerly Kira Wilson. Just got married, what, between now and Raw Nats?
Yeah, between Raw Nationals and now, yep.
This past Raw Nationals, she won the national championship in her weight class, I believe the 75 kilo.
Yes.
For the first time?
Yep, she came out on top over Jasmine Penn, I believe, and she'd been She's been grinding away for a long time, and really a testament to the the perseverance and being okay with the delayed gratification that comes with training for powerlifting.
That looked easy.
Good start.
3 white lights there for Kira. Fun fact, her first meet was my first meet.
Your trajectories sure are different.
There's a little bit more talent with one of us. All right, bar's going to move on up now to 32.5, 512 pounds. Peter Huang coming out. Looking at the forecast right now, granted it's very early, the forecasted dots is only based off their openers right now. Peter's looking pretty good.
Yeah, he absolutely is.
And that opener looked pretty good to me. 3 white lights, the officials would agree. Bar's going to move on up, 240 kilos for Anas Anbar.
So far, openers looking like they should, and it'll be interesting to see with how fast this spotter loader crew is if any adjustments are made to the opening attempts and attempt selection to account for that, because they're definitely moving.
Let's give a shout out to those spotters and loaders, the UTSA boys. They're so quick. They do a fantastic job. And if you're ever in the San Antonio area and you get to have them spot and load for you, it's going to be the fastest meet you've ever done, probably.
Yeah, I would ramp up your cardio a little bit before you come out here, because it might only take you 2 hours to get that meet in.
Anas taking his time. 25 seconds left on the clock. Does he have the nasal strip? I can't tell.
Hard to tell from here.
I don't think so.
Got about 10 seconds left on his clock here. But really building the suspense for us.
Just has to get the start command.
And got it. Gets lift, 3 white lights.
Pretty easy opener there for him. $245 on the bar, 540 pounds. Opening attempt now, Albert Lee.
So far, all the openers seem to be moving as they should.
And that makes sense, right? There's a lot of money on the line. All of these lifters, they're the best of the best in the USAPL. They're going to be experienced. They're going to come in. If guys are struggling or girls are struggling with their openers, like, we've got a problem. Very solid opener there for Albert. 3 white lights.
And the key is, I mean, you have to set yourself up for success, right? You have to make your lifts, obviously. But if you go in and you don't give yourself the best shot, eke out every single kilo you can, you're not giving yourself the best chance to place as high as you can. So it's smart attempt selection, smart strategy to get yourself, in a position to be able to win the big bucks.
Yep, full sends are needed sometimes, but at this level, they're probably not going to happen. Unless you need it on the third pull to try and win yourself $15,000.
Save it for the third deadlift when you know what you need to get the highest dot score possible.
So now we took a hefty jump on the bar, 275, 606. Opener for Jalen Falk. This is going to fly, I bet.
It did.
Yeah. 3 white lights for Jalen.
Nothing red on the board yet so far. I think everybody has been successful in their squats, which you would expect at competing at this level. You wouldn't expect to.
I think we've had one call from the front.
One red light overall, but all successful lifts so far, which is to be expected.
Small jump up, 2.5 kilos to 277.5. Opening attempt for Anthony Bilal. Gets his squat command with about 20 seconds left. Moved very well, and I think the depth was pretty good.
Yep.
Officials agree, 3 white lights.
Checked all the boxes for me.
Hefty jump now. Yep. 325, 716 as an opening squat.
And breaking 700 with our openers. I believe this is the last opener I have to imagine.
Yes.
And then we'll start second attempts.
Lorenzo right now coming out. Coached by one of the South Carolina State chairs and one of my fellow executive committee members, Heather Foss, who just competed a few hours ago herself. Gets the command. Really good depth. Maybe a little bit slower out of the hole there, but it's also 716 pounds, so it's kind of hard to move that fast all the time.
Yeah. It's going to take a second to really get the momentum going on that one.
And with that, we had a perfect first round of attempts. And we are going to flip the lineup over.
Like Leanne's breaking into the 300-pound mark with 303 here, 137.5. Just off of her best at 142.5.
I'm a big fan of the 12.5 kilo jump.
As long as you've practiced for it and you're prepared for it, you can really get yourself a really easy opener and kind of conserve some energy for the third on that.
A little shaky in the hole, almost like she kind of just misgrooved when she got to the bottom.
Yeah, that almost looked like her weight got knocked forward a little bit on her, but she recovered well.
3 white lights, really all that matters.
Yeah.
Now we've got a smaller jump here for Mesa Gill, 170. She's getting pretty close to that 3 times body weight mark.
And this is only 2.5 kilos off of her best squat, which was 172.5.
And squat isn't the thing that sets her apart. She's a great bencher. She's a great deadlifter.
Want to eke out every kilo you can, and you don't want to drain yourself so hard on squat that then you have to sacrifice it later on deadlift.
A lot of these lifters taking their time coming out here. May gets the command with about 10 left. That wasn't that much slower than her opener as she gets 3 white lights on 170 kilos. So you said it was only 2.5 under. I think she's poised for another 5 kilos.
Yeah, I think 5 is the safer bet. She may have 7.5, no pun intended. I don't know what her squats usually look like, but she may just be kind of setting herself up for something, a little safer there to take every kilo she can.
And safe for squats is probably all she has to focus on, because I'm pretty confident in whatever she needs to pull to win, she's ready to load it up.
Yeah, and you mentioned the lifters taking their time. I do wonder if that's strategic because of how fast the loaders are, that they're giving themselves a little bit of extra time to get a little more recovery in before they take their attempts.
Speaking of which, Bria Williams coming out for her second attempt, 172.5. She gets the squat command with about 15 seconds left. A little bit of a side shift out of the hole, but once she corrected, that flew.
Yep.
How big of a jump was that? 12.5 kilos? That's a pretty good jump.
Yep, it looks like Christiane jumped 10. A wise man said that she may take around a 10-kilo jump.
I think she posted on her Instagram the other day, ER or PR. So I know she's trying to beat her current American record at 188.5. I got to imagine this is going to fly, and then she's going to knock that out of the park. Personally, I'd like to see her load up too.
That would be fun to see. And I mean, based on how her first moved, this shouldn't be a problem.
It should not.
And it wasn't.
I think if she wanted to load up too, I think she's got it. I don't know if they're going to.
I wouldn't be surprised to see another 10.
I agree with that. I think 10 is probably where they're going to go. 7.5 would be almost too conservative, feels like, because they have to chase down May.
Yeah. I could see them, taking another 10, and that wouldn't be. That'd be a wise move, in my opinion, on their part to take that if you have it. And all indications point to her having it.
Another 10, just like you called. We have the board up in front of us. 197.5, that was still a massive third attempt. But let's reel it back in. We've got the second attempt now for Kira Thompson, 202.5, 446. Great looking second attempt there from Kira as her coach. Zach Cooper smacks on the platform.
Yeah, little sticky out of the bottom. Probably 5, 7.5. She can grind a squat pretty well. But her bench is fantastic, close to 300 pounds. So, her squat's great as well, but I think they'll play it a little safer there in 5, 7.5.
Yeah, it's really easy for us to overlook her squatting in the mid fours when we're so used to seeing her bench near 300. Second attempt now, Peter Huang. 15 kilo jump. Gets a squat command. He almost got back on his heels a little bit, but it still moved quite well. 3 white lights there for him.
And Kira actually went up to 213, so she is
attempting some kind of record. I'd have to imagine it's the American record.
I don't have them in front of me, but yeah, at least the American record. But that is
She did make weight as a 75, so I know it's not the 82.5 kilo record. Because that would be 222.5?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but I want to say it's around
I think
that.
that's Angela that has that. Anas Anbar out, taking his second attempt at 255, 562.
A 9.5 kilo jump there, if my math is right. Wasn't a math major, so you'll have to double check me.
The wrong way. 10.5.
10.5. I see. I'm glad you're here.
Anas taking his time. 20 seconds on the clock. I think you're right. I think that is part of the strategy with the short turnaround.
Everybody is doing it. Like, it's most everybody.
We're already halfway through squats, and it's only been 15 minutes.
Right.
I think that's how a second should look.
I agree.
His opener flew, and to me, there's still a lot in the tank there. They went up 15 from the first to the second. I could realistically see another 10. 10 seems like the smart one.
Yeah, I don't think 10 is unreasonable at all.
Do I think he's got another 12.5 or 15? Maybe.
He very well might. But I think 10 would be especially looks like he's got himself a pretty big deadlift. So you don't want to tax yourself too much on squat and sacrifice there.
He did put in another 10, so 265. Yep. Albert Lee also taking 255 kilos. Smaller jump for him from his first, 245 to 255. Slightly lighter lifter than Anas. Very controlled into the hole. A little bit of a grinder. 3 white lights.
Yeah, there was definitely some velocity loss, but it was fairly smooth in terms of there wasn't a super pronounced sticking point. Probably 5 kilos if I had to guess.
Considering they only went up 10 on the opener, you're probably right. I'm thinking at 5. It really just kind of boils down to what do they think they need to be in it for deadlifts.
And it is tough for us to predict because we don't know how they handle the low velocity heavy loads. Like, can they grind, or are they kind of more all or nothing lifters? So,
and that descent looked super controlled.
Yeah.
Now, if it was that slow out of the hole after he crashed into it,
right.
I'd be worried.
Yeah.
15 kilo jump for Anthony Bilal. 292.5, 644. Another lifter taking the timer down. Gets the squat command with 6 seconds left.
Excellent depth.
3 white lights. I think we've seen one red light thrown the entire time.
So far, yeah. They're no missed squats whatsoever, and I think the one red from the front during the first attempt, right?
Yep. Absolutely zero drama so far. I'm a big fan of this attempt. Jumping 30 kilos for Jalen Falk up to 305. His opener looked like he was standing up off the couch.
Yeah, his opener was really, really easy. 30 kilos is generally, a pretty sizable jump, but when you are this strong, it's not as high of a percentage of what your maximum
10%?
is. Yeah. Which, that's still pretty big, but if you're used to it.
And you wouldn't even think that much, because if you're warming up on bench and you're benching 120 and then you go to 132, that doesn't sound like that much.
Yep, and I'm sure that in training, it's something that they do frequently, so it's not something he's unaccustomed to.
Now, with 30 kilos on the bar, I got to imagine it's going to slow down a little bit. But Jalen's so strong. It slowed down a little bit, but not like you think 30 kilos would do.
No, there was definitely some slowdown, but yeah, I wouldn't. Initially, when you think 30 kilos, you think it would hit him harder than that, and it would be more velocity drop off than there was.
So that was 3 white lights there for Jalen. Curious to see how big of a jump he's going to go. I think he's going to go over 7. But before then, let's bring it back. Lorenzo Wright coming up now. American record attempt at 348.5 kilos. 23.5 kilo increase from his opening attempt. And pretty sure 325, it moved okay, but it's also 7, so it's hard for it to move that fast the whole time.
Right. We got 768 on the bar.
I can barely count that high.
I don't know if I can. It's on the screen, otherwise I'd be real confused, I think.
Walkout looks about the same. I'm kind of scared because that moved about as well as his opener did.
Yeah, they were pretty comparable.
3 white lights
there. They were pretty
there.
comparable.
That's a new American record for Lorenzo. Depth looks good. Yeah. Where is he going to go? Is he going to cross 8?
That'd be a pretty big jump. That'd be bold, for sure. I'll be interested to see. It looks like Land's going for a PR here. This will exceed her current best by 2.5 kilos. This is 145, 319 pounds.
And this is well over 3 times body weight. She weighed in 46.1, so a little bit of quick math puts that. I mean, to be fair, her second attempt was over 3 times body weight. Now we're exceeding that by 10. Only up 7.5 kilos from her second. Moved really well, but it looks like she cut it high.
Yep, cut it high. Got 3 red lights, 3 red cards from all the judges. They agreed that the squat was high. And from our vantage point, I would have to agree with that as well.
Our perspective is a little weird. Some of the closer ones, it's not as easy for us to see. We do have a video board in front of us, but we're about, 60, 70 feet away, elevated up by a little bit. It's kind of hard for us to see depth.
Yeah.
But that one, I think you and I were both in agreement on that.
Yeah, it was one of those where, you get a little nervous when it's a PR attempt, things like that, and just try to cut it, try to take what you can, and just...
And $15,000 on the line.
I don't blame him.
She might not be the front runner right now, but if there's a couple misses,
yeah,
anything can happen. May Seguil coming out now, 175, 385 for her third and final squat of the day. She's just gone up 5 each time.
Also a 2.5 kilo PR after she's successful.
That moved pretty well. She's happy about it. Let's see what the judges say on it. 3 white lights for May. As far as we know, that's first PR of the day.
Yeah, it looks like it. 385 pounds, 175 kilos.
Actually,
moved pretty well, too.
Realistically, I'm going to guess Lorenzo's was probably a PR.
You would think.
Not very often American records aren't that.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Bria Williams coming out, 180 kilos, just shy of 400 pounds, 396. round up a little bit to 397, though I don't really like to round up. 7.5 kilo increase for her from her second.
PR attempt for her as well by 4 kilos.
She had a little bit of a hip shift on her second that kind of slowed her out of the hole, but then she was able to recover and fire up. I think as long as she maintains a little bit better balance, it's going to be great. Just a little bit too much on the day.
And she was a little more controlled on the way down, and I have to wonder if that affected her ability to use that bounce out of the bottom and complete
Not
the
getting
lift.
that stretch reflex.
Yep. And I understand why if she lost positioning a little bit, in the bottom last time, a little more control, but the sacrifice you make there is not being able to use that stretch reflex quite as much.
All right. Third and final attempt. It's not on the board, but I'm quite confident that this is an American record attempt, considering she owns it.
Yeah, the previous was 188.5, I believe. So
which
that
she
was
hit
that
at Raw Nationals, 197.5. Over 3 times body weight on the bar for Christy Hazard. Gets her squat. That moved really good. 3 white lights, 197.5. I'm pretty confident that's a new American record.
Yeah, and it moved very well. She probably had a little bit more, but I think that was a smart choice.
I think so too.
With taking other lifts into consideration.
I don't know if 200's there on the day. She looked exhausted after she racked it. Like, if you want to get 2 into it, maybe 198, 199, but 197, take it.
And now we have Kira going for a world record attempt in the 75 kilo class.
213 kilos, 470. Absolutely massive squat coming up here. You can see her over in the corner. She's getting incredibly zoned in. Coach Zach Cooper's trying to get her fired up too. First world record attempt on the day. Looked like a really good walkout.
The walkout was strong.
Just not quite there. So they went 213 without having it off the top of our heads. I gotta imagine that was the chip, and the previous record was probably about 212.
I would have to imagine so. That would make sense.
The only other number that I could think would make sense for her to attempt it would maybe be 210, but if that's not a record and that wasn't what they were going for, I'm not sure how she's forecasted to place. Going for the world record could have been their goal.
Right, absolutely.
Peter Wong coming out, 255, 562. He's up 7.5 kilos from his second attempt.
Just under his best at 2.5 kilos.
That moved really well. Got to wonder why he didn't go up just a little bit more. I think there might have been another 2.5, maybe 5, watching the replay. He got a little shaky in the bottom. Maybe that was just the top end for the day. They've done enough preparation to know where they need to be at the end of it.
Yeah, I imagine like their strategy, I'm sure, takes into account what their plans are for deadlift, what their plans are for bench even, because you never know if your back cramps up during your third attempt, something like that. It could impact, your positioning on bench deadlifts in the future. So like this matches Anas's personal best at 265.
And that's got to be pretty confidence-inducing for Anas. He's already hit this on the platform. He knows he can do it. Now it's just a matter of going out and executing on this stage to try and set himself up for a chance to win that $15,000. He's running out of time, though. 12 seconds on the clock in order to get his squat command.
He's played with fire a little bit on his first two as well, though, and gotten it with about 5 seconds or so.
4 seconds. I think that was the right call on the day.
I would have to agree. They moved well. Yep. No, they made the right call there. That was the. Nothing's ever a sure thing, but when you've already hit it before, there's going to be more confidence that you can move it again.
Maybe 2.5 out of there, but his reaction off of that makes me think that was exactly what he felt confident in today.
Yep. Albert here looks like they took actually a 10-kilo jump, so that's above. We had said 5 kilos.
He was more controlled into the hole, though.
He was. And they moved pretty similarly, if I recall. There wasn't much slowdown, so we'll see. Maybe he's comfortable, with the lower velocities and the heavier weights, and he knows what he can handle.
Looking at the forecast right now, if we assume that everybody else is going to hit this, Albert here is going to be in 4th and not by too much, just within a dot point of 3rd.
And looking at the forecast overall, there's definitely already some
He's got
tight
4
battles
seconds,
forming.
3. Oh, gets the squat command with 1 second left. Oh, the depth was good.
Just wasn't quite there. It was just a little bit too much today.
Not going to be able to grind that one out. And honestly, they took it probably at a really good time. He could have maybe tried to grind that up. I don't think there was any downward before they took it. Just a little bit.
Started.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, the timing was basically perfect. As close to perfect as you're going to be.
That's probably for the best, conservation of energy moving forward. All right, we are winding down in the squat portion of session 3. 3 squats left. The first of which is 302.5, 666 pounds on the bar. 3rd attempt for Anthony Bilal.
And a PR match for him as well. So everybody so far is either, exceeding or matching the best they've ever done.
$20 seconds on the clock for Anthony. Gets the command with about 10 left. Absolutely dunks it. Gets through a little bit of a sticking point in the midpoint. 3 white lights. Going 3 for 3 in this event is huge.
Yeah, that was a really good call. Honestly, there's a little bit more to be taken if you wanted it, but I think that's the exact way you want to take there to set yourself up for success.
10 kilos up from your second, that seems pretty appropriate.
10 kilos up, and this is a personal best by 2 kilos. Jalen's best was 313.
And with how 305 moved, I'm feeling pretty good about this one.
Yeah, I mean, all indications point to this being, not too terribly difficult for him.
Got a very calm demeanor, too. You never can really tell what's going on in his mind.
You wouldn't know he has 700 pounds or nearly 700 pounds on his back.
Wow. Turned it into a bit of a grind. He just looks like that was another day at the office, but he just squatted 315 kilos. Went 3 for 3 on the squat.
He had to fight for it pretty good, but interestingly, looking at it, his positioning did not really change very much. He hung on to positioning really, really well, and that's probably the difference there between him, making that and he gets out of position with that much weight. It's hard to come back from.
All right, we are up to our final squat of the evening. So since we consolidated the men and women into one flight, in order to give them a chance to warm up for bench, after this squat, we're going to go to a 20-minute break. But before we get there, we have another world record attempt. Lorenzo Wright is going to try and push his own world record another 12 kilos. 360.5, 795 pounds. So just shy of what I was thinking at maybe 800. I think that's his best walkout yet.
Yeah.
Come on, stand it up. He's able to stand it up.
A great fight.
Oh, but he's going to get no lift, 2-1 on depth.
The center and the right side referee called it for depth. Heather Foss is going to the jury to ask them their thoughts on it. Depth is generally a pretty tough one for the jury to overturn, but they are talking about it right now.
So we'll try and hang on here for a moment and see if anything happens. They are still talking.
And for the jury to overturn, it has to be a blatant, obvious, or egregious misapplication of the rules. So they're conferring currently. They may go and talk to the referees. We'll see what's going on.
Tyler Griffiths is getting up. The demeanor that this conversation is having, it's making me think that they're going to stick with that call. It was pretty tough for us to tell.
Yeah, it was right on the border, and in that case, it definitely would be a tough one for them to.
Heather's fighting for it. Yeah, looking at the way Heather's responding, I don't think it's going to get overturned.
Yeah, I imagine they're going to stick with the call on the platform.
Which is kind of funny now that we think about it, because isn't her husband one of the officials that said no lift?
Is he out there? I didn't see. I think he might have been. Yeah, he's right side because Wes Zunker is on the left. So yeah.
All right. So looking at it, oh, maybe they are. Still trying to figure out what's going on here with this before we go to break.
The break has started. The jury doesn't look like they're talking to scoring. I think they're sticking with the platform's call.
Yeah, I think they would. They'd have already been filling out that paperwork for it. So perhaps things change, but we'll be able to let you know in about 20 minutes time when we come back from break. The bench is set up. We're going to go grab a drink. We'll see you in about 20. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're just about a minute away from the bench press portion of the Raw Open Pro Series Finals 2024. Right now on the screen, we've got the current projections or the current leaders. The dots aren't quite updated. But just looking at it, there's a pretty tight battle between second through fourth on the women's side. First place right now for the women is May, and she's a little bit out in front. I was in the back room, and it kind of looked like her back might have been cramping up, so I'm interested to see if that plays a factor at all. For the men right now, it looks like Peter Huang has a 10 dots lead on projections, but then all the way down to the bottom, it's pretty darn tight.
It's still, even with him being that far ahead, it still looks like it's anybody's game, because when deadlifts come, we don't know how big of jumps they're going to take, and they're all pretty darn close. So I'll be interested to see. I imagine, like it usually is with bench, you can't typically win the meet on bench, but you can certainly lose it. And so you want to, just like on squat, get every kilo you can, and move on to deadlift with the highest possible dots. Forecasted dots, that is.
So we did have a little bit of an update from that squat situation with Lorenzo Wright. They said that they gave Heather two bits of bad news. One was that they were going to go with the call on the platform and not overturn the no lift for Lorenzo's third at 360.5. They also said that they were going to take away the American record because the database was incorrect, so their attempt was invalid. But looking at LiftingCast right now, it looks like they went back on that because the database was kind of our error.
Yeah, and it had initially changed to 347.5 and now is back. So it looks like he may, in fact, be getting credit for it. And, more developing on that. We'll keep you guys posted on if anything else changes.
Opening attempt, Leanne Lee. Ultra wide grip, 75 kilos. Moved like a bench opener should, 3 white lights.
Yep, moved easy. Her best is 85. Wouldn't be terribly shocked to see her go 5 and 5 and match that. Bench can get heavy in a hurry, and it can go from moving really, really easily to all of a sudden being really, really difficult. So you don't want to take too big of risks and risk a miss when there's more kilos to be had.
Especially for lifters that are on the lighter end of body weights. Like for Leanne and for Bria right here, like 5 kilos is 10% of their body weight. So that's a pretty big jump. So if Leanne goes 75 to 80, that's over 5% jump, which on bench is a lot when it's on your top end.
Yeah, I mean, very often, with benches, that are, below 250, 300 pounds, it's not unheard of to go 5 kilos, 2.5 kilos, and just take what's there, 5 and 5 if it's moving really well.
Bria Williams, opening attempt, 82.5, 182. That moved kind of like an empty bar, which I like. In a perfect world, that's how all of these openers are going to look.
In a perfect world, that's how all the lifts look, first through third attempt.
We shouldn't even need, judges out there, right? Everybody just needs to hit the lift. Christy Hazard coming out to take her opening attempt at 115.253. I know she's feeling it right now. She was fired up in the warm-up room. She kind of used an expletive or two after she hit one of her warm-ups, so I think she's feeling really good here.
And opening on bench, only 5 kilos off of her best at 120. And
I don't think 120 is going to be her best much longer.
It doesn't look like the limit today. That's for sure.
It looked like an empty bar.
It did. That was, there zero slowdown whatsoever.
Dane, I don't know if you and I move 115 that fast.
I probably
right now.
don't, honestly, or if ever.
Opening attempt now, Mesa Gill. She's currently the front runner. Only opening 2.5 kilos above Christy at 117.5, 259 pounds, just shy of double body weight. That was a little slower off the chest, but I mean, she's got such a great setup. She's an absolute technician. I don't think that's really all that slow.
And with such a wide grip, you're going to be slower off of your chest. It's kind of similar to how with sumo deadlift, you're slower off the floor, but then the lockout is very, very fast. So if you can get through that point and where the leverages are worse, then when you get to lockout, it's going to be very, very quick.
In bench is one of the places where I think May's going to start to try and run away with the competition. Keeping it at 117.5, we have the opening attempt for Kira Thompson.
This is the same weight she opened with at Raw Nationals, and she took some pretty big jumps. She jumped, 7.5 and then 5. So depending on how things move, and that moved quite well, could take similar jumps here.
honestly, where's she poised at right now with the dots? So she's currently looking to be in 4th based off projections. She got a chance to run down 3rd, maybe, with her deadlift. I wouldn't mind seeing her go up maybe 10?
Everything's so close right now that it's hard to say, but 10 is a pretty sizable jump on bench, though. It has to look like something special. Like I can't even really tell you what it looks like, but I know it when I see it.
I like a 10.5 more than I like a 7.5, 7.5.
It'd be bold. That is that's for sure. We'll see what they put on 125. So far they're matching what they did at Raw Nationals.
I guess if it works,
it ain't broke.
Yeah. Albert Lee's opening attempt, 160. The descent looked as controlled as the ascent.
And it's a good lift. That's 10 kilos off of his best bench. So most everybody's opening pretty close to where their best is. So either we're going to take small jumps, which is totally possible, or we're primed for some bench PRs.
And that makes sense too, right? With how advanced all of these lifters are, it's not very common that somebody comes out and hits a 10-kilo bench PR every 3 months.
It'd be great, though.
It would be. But then by now, I think Anas would be benching 500 kilos.
I'd love to see it.
I mean, this is already a massive bench for him. 175, 385 pounds, 2.3 times body weight.
I'll trust you. I won't do it myself.
It's like 2.333 repeating.
We heard my math earlier, and it wasn't great, so.
Moves so well.
It did.
I think at this level, when you have really good bench pressers, it's one of two things. It's either what I like to call football strong, which is just somebody is just so brute force strong, or you've got guys like Anas who are just technicians. There's an optimal way for them to lift using their leverages, and he's got it figured out.
Yeah, he's got the biomechanics figured out. He's got it scienced to the degree that he needs to be as leveraged as possible. His right arm was a little delayed on the lockout there, which isn't a big deal. But definitely something to watch for as it gets heavier, if there's going to be any lag there that could potentially cost him, some energy, or hopefully not, but potentially affect a limit attempt.
Current leader, Peter Huang, smoked his opener, 185 kilos, 407.
And his best is 192.5, so opening pretty close to it, and that moved pretty well.
I think they might just jump right to that there.
They might match on their second.
Anthony Bilal coming out 190 kilos. We are getting into a range of some pretty big openers here. Of course, the heaviest lifter we have is Jalen Falk, so we don't have any of the supers here, so we're not going to see anything north of like 230-ish.
Pound for pound, these are some extremely strong bench presses. If you're weighing in, it looks like Anthony weighed in at 82.45, so a little bit above 100, or a little bit below the limit of the 82.5 class, opening with 190.
And it absolutely flew. That's another one where it's like 2.25 times body weight.
Yeah. Nothing to sneeze at, that's for sure.
Guys aren't squatting 2.2 times body weight at a lot of levels.
It's true. I just learned how recently myself.
Lorenzo Wright coming out. He's going to take his opening attempt at 192.5, 424 and some change.
So Lorenzo's had some adversity during squats, which, Heather's an experienced coach. He's an experienced lifter. I'm sure he won't let it get to him. The best thing you can do is make all 3 benches and build that confidence for yourself to head on into deadlift.
And they didn't seem too rattled back there in the back room talking to Heather. I overheard her saying to Lorenzo, we know 800's there. Very controlled opening attempt, I want to say. I don't want to call it slow because it was 420.
No, it moved well. I don't think that. I think that might just be how he benches. I think that it might not be a super fast presser, but it was consistent. But I mean, to the point of the adversity, like you have to control what you can control, right? And you can't control those things that happen. That's out of his control. You can control making lifts, lifting at the standard, and doing everything you can in that regard.
Another thing that Heather told me back there was that was the first time he'd ever handled anything like that. 795. I said back, I wouldn't have known.
Certainly won't be the last.
Jalen Falk's opening attempt, 202.5. This is basically double body weight. Pretty good arch and still manages to get a good sink. 3 white lights. That one moved great.
It did, and it looks like we're already on second attempt benches.
We are roaring through this competition. 7.5 kilo jump, which is more than we thought for Leanne.
It is. It is. Her best is 85. This is just 2.5 kilos below that.
I think she's positioned herself well, where if she gets this and it moves great, we're going to go up 5. If we get this and it moves okay, 2.5.
Yeah, sometimes you pick that attempt that gives you options. You pick this attempt, we make it. Depending on where you want to go, you can, take the more sure thing, take a bigger risk if you need to, but that way you're not putting yourself into a situation where you're trapped.
And the nice part about bench is even if you miss a third, it's not going to be as taxing on your CNS like missing a third squat would be.
Correct. The only thing you want to be careful of there, and that moved excellent.
I want to see another 5.
Yeah, I think that I wouldn't be shocked if they went 5. Wouldn't be shocked if they went 2 either, but I think 5 is definitely there.
Where is she at in the forecast? Currently 3rd in the forecast. So if everybody hits everything else that's on the board, she'll take 3rd right now. I'd like 5. I would be a little nervous to see 7.5, but hey, that'd be pretty cool.
I think 7.5 would be too risky. There wasn't really much slowdown off her chest, which is indicative that she has more because you really have to pick the attempt based on where the lift is hardest. So even if the lockout's fast, if you know the hardest part of the lift for them is off their chest, then you have to take that into account when you're selecting the attempt.
And it looks like Leanne did opt to go up 5 kilos to 87.5. So a PR attempt and also trying to build that total and put herself in striking distance for second or possibly even first. As we have the second attempt now for Bria Williams, 90 kilos, just shy of 200 pounds. I'm very impressed with how that moved. That was a 7.5 kilo jump. I think the way things are going, you kind of have to match the flow of everybody else. I see another 5 coming from her.
Yeah, that would match her best, and that makes sense.
That was kind of an interesting way that she touched. Her right arm didn't go down as far. She touched better with her left. I doubt that's deliberate.
No, I mean, maybe, but I haven't seen enough for benching to know. And it looks like we're matching our best here for Christiane at 120. And based on how the first moved, there's plenty left.
Yeah, that was really... I'm actually a little upset they only went up 5.
I foresee another 5. I
agree.
It's a little unconventional, but they could go 7.5. But based on history, I would expect 5.
I think 5 is absolutely the right call. I think if you go up 7.5 there, then 5 afterward is fine. But like you said, if you go 5, 7.5, I think you're leaving keys out there.
Yeah, it's not super common to take a bigger jump from second to third than first to second. It does happen. Sometimes things move better than you expect on the second attempt.
And they did put in a third at 125.
Yeah, which historically, the times I've seen, that's what they do. They usually go, even jumps. And a 5 kilo PR on bench is pretty darn big, especially when you're at that level.
Second attempt from Mesa Gill, the technician. It's really hard to gauge where her third's going to be at.
That matches her best as well.
So we're getting into a slugfest then.
We are.
I think she's going to go up another 5. No. May only went up 2.5. So we already said it. It's hard to judge based off that speed. She must not be feeling it too much. 2.5 kilos. But she's already the front runner, so she just kind of has to add and keep that distance. 125 on the bar, 275 for Kira Thompson. Her second attempt. $7.5 kilo increase. And that looked good.
I have to imagine they're going to match the 130 they took at Nationals. That makes sense, and based on how that moved, I think there is another 5 there. She can grind her bench pretty well.
Which is not a common thing for anybody to do.
I see the 5 and the 130 they took at Nationals. Especially after missing her third squat, they don't want to take too big of a jump and lose out on something there.
Right. We're already talking about, you have to build the total to be here. Right now, she's sitting fairly comfortably in 4th. Maybe it might be too big of a gap for her now to overcome that missed squat and try and get her way to 3rd, but we'll see. Second attempt now for Albert Lee, up 7.5 kilos to 167.5.
2.5 kilos under his best. He might have a new best after that.
Yeah, absolutely he will. And a number that I am very happy about, Anas decided to go up 10 kilos from his opener, from 175 now to 185, 407. Another one of those technicians, like we were talking about, he really scienced his way through that setup.
Yeah, and he took a 10-kilo jump here, which when you're getting above 400, that's not unheard of. And his first moved well.
If it seems aggressive, but I like it. Still 10 kilos below his personal best, so maybe he really likes those bigger jumps, and that's where he's going to go.
It could be. I mean, I'm sure he's done it before. Not his first time. You're not going to do something you've never done at the Pro Series finals when it comes to the jumps you're taking, unless it's third attempt deadlift to go for the win.
Well, I don't think there's going to be any issue with him getting that. 3 white lights. I was a little surprised he got the start command when he did. It looked like they gave it to him kind of early, looking at the replay. He gets the start command about right there, and then he kind of pressed it out. It almost looked like it caught him off guard, but it moved fine.
Yeah, it looked like he was getting ready to lock his elbows more in anticipation of the start command being delayed, but then he got the command, so I'm surprised it moved as well as it did, because that probably threw him off a little bit.
And that's one, too, where I think if he misses that, maybe they even give him a relift.
It's certainly possible, because he wasn't given the chance to remedy the improper start position.
Meanwhile, second attempt for Peter Huang. 192.5. It slowed down compared to his first, but he still gets 3 white lights. I think he's going to have to take a more conservative jump. His opener was, 185, so he went up 7.5.
Though that was matching his best bench ever in competition, so yeah. A little bit of slowdown's not unexpected there.
And he's got a little bit of room between him and the rest of the field, so 2.5 kilos probably doesn't feel that bad. Bar is loaded. Second attempt for Anthony Bilal at 197.5 kilos, 435 pounds.
Another second attempt to kind of go with our trend that's only 2.5 kilos below his best.
Great second attempt.
He might be another, like we mentioned earlier, that he might have a new best after today.
Kind of just looked like another day at the office for him.
And not much struggle to be had. Maybe a little bit of slowdown just off the chest, but very, very negligible.
Bar is going to remain at 197.5. This time for the second attempt for Lorenzo Wright. Up only 5 kilos from his opener.
So they did play it a little conservative after the opener. We did notice that it was a little, I wouldn't say slow is the right word, but it wasn't as fast as you might anticipate an opener being.
And I wonder if that's got something to do with the strategy of trying to conserve energy, or maybe they taxed him a little bit with that third squat. But looking at that second attempt, I don't think he's that fatigued.
That was pretty comparable, I thought, to his first. So maybe even a little quicker, honestly.
I'm interested to see where this third attempt goes. Because that moved pretty well. I think you have to go 5.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by it. And Jalen here also 2.5 kilos off of his best for his second attempt.
210.
His first, if I recall correctly, moved pretty well. So just building up for the potential PR attempt on the third.
7.5 kilo increase here for Jalen, up to 463. Moved pretty well, a little bit shaky.
I expect 5.
5 would be the smart call, I think.
Yeah, So Lorenzo went up to 207.5 after a second, which will give him a 2.5 kilo PR if he makes it, interestingly, up there. So he took a sizable jump after. He actually took a 10 kilo jump after a 5 kilo jump. Now there is some strategy to that, and taking a more sure thing on the second to and seeing how it goes, and then being a little more aggressive with the third if things turn around a little bit.
5 kilo increase here.
2.5 kilo PR attempt.
And right now, every kilo matters for these ladies.
And all successful benches so far, it looks like. There has not been a miss to date yet. And
I was going to be so upset if you jinxed that, but you didn't. 3 white lights for Leanne
that was
Lee.
a dangerous move. That was like talking about a perfect game or a no-hitter in baseball. You got to be careful. You don't want to curse them.
Absolute worst thing you can do.
Announcer's curse, but she didn't care. She made it anyway.
Like you said, 2.5 kilo PR, therefore. Forecasted dots up at just under 429. It's going to be a pretty tight battle on the podium for the women.
And Bria's matching her best here, it looks like.
Which seems smart. They went up 7.5 from the opener. I thought the speed was fine, but like you've mentioned before, the weight just kind of gets on you pretty quick.
And sometimes 2.5 kilos feels a lot more like 10 on bench without you expecting it to.
Taking her time. Getting set up. This is a really big third attempt for her. A little bit of an uneven touch again, but that was a pretty good third.
Yeah.
I think that's the correct call.
I agree. I think that was safer, obviously, of the two options, but based on what their plan appears to be, it was the right call.
Looking at the projections for the women, Bria's, I don't want to say she's out of fourth place, but she's still got a little bit of a gap between her and Kira Wilson.
PR attempt here for May, it looks like by 2.5 kilos.
Which makes sense, and the way we were talking about it, like it's so hard to judge the speed of May's bench and to really feel what she's got in the tank. So, I mean, 125, this is over double body weight. This is an absolutely massive bench press.
And the trade-off for being more like of a technician is that there's not as much room for error. So if you get out of line, out of the groove, it's much easier to miss. But not a problem for May.
No. Keeps it perfect, going 3 for 3.
Yeah, in those situations where it's not, as much brute strength, if you get out of the groove, it's much harder to recorrect that.
We talk a lot about like an 8-time bodyweight total. Well, what about May having a 5 times bodyweight subtotal?
I mean, I'm envious.
Christy Hazard coming out, 125. She's been fired up this whole time. She's feeling great. I think she's trying to run down May.
And this is a 5 kilo PR attempt for her, and her second move, great.
I got to think this is there.
It was.
Oh,
and
man.
more. And more.
We don't get fourth attempts, Christy. Fired up, hugs one of her handlers. ER or PR, as Christy said.
And Kira is matching that 130 that she took at Raw Nationals for her third. And still an extremely impressive 287-pound bench.
Yeah, we're just kind of overlooking that.
Yeah, it's not far off of the 300-pound mark. And in a situation like this, you gotta take that, especially after the third squat didn't go the way she wanted.
Every kilo matters. Every attempt is important, especially with the amount of money on the line. We'll talk about some of those pay jumps as the night progresses. Kira gets her third start.
It was the right call.
I would agree. I don't think 2.5's there.
If it is, it's very, very, very difficult, and you don't know how that could affect deadlift if, some folks with their backs start to cramp up when they're really grinding on bench. And do you want to make that sacrifice on deadlift? Because you're going to get a lot more out of your deadlift or your total than you're going to on bench.
6 more bench presses in the session. Just the men remain. Third and final attempt for Albert Lee, 175 kilos, 386 pounds.
And Albert's joined the party with a 5 kilo PR attempt as well.
Yeah, he went 7.5, which feels aggressive, and I like it. That was such a long grind.
Wasn't quite. 2 red lights. I have to imagine he never really locked out his right arm.
No, it kind of looked like
from
a
what I can tell.
misclick.
His left got there, or close to it. His right just never quite got locked out.
And the way watching that replay, I think if he was able to get that lockout with his right arm, I think he's going to get that lift because I didn't see
agree.
him up and down.
I agree. It looked like it slowed, but it never dipped down. But he just couldn't quite get the right arm to to get fully locked out, and he was fighting it for a while.
Now we have Anas on bar, third attempt, 192.5. I believe that's just shy of his personal best.
Yep, just 2.5 kilos under.
I wonder if that's something like that's just kind of how he's feeling on the day, or if he's trying to poise himself up for a higher position in the rankings.
Could be a little bit of both. And
same kind of funky start as the last one, and he gets it. He probably had
like
a
a successful
PR tie.
Yeah, I think he had a PR match. Bench is kind of one of those that's harder to predict than squat or deadlift too. It's harder to tell based on training what it's going to do, at least for most. So,
and the way he danced off the platform, he's not upset.
He's
being
pretty
2.5
jazzed
kilos
about it.
under.
Yeah, he was. Unless he does that all the time, but yeah.
A pretty small third jump here for Peter Huang, just up 2.5 kilos.
But a PR attempt for him from the 192, which I believe was a fairly tough attempt. And we mentioned that, but he's still going for a PR on his third.
And since right now he's the leader in the clubhouse, you're just trying to add on.
Yep. Looks like he got called to replace the bar, and the side referees didn't think he had his elbows locked. He was going to get a chance to the remainder on the clock, which is about 20 seconds, to lock his elbows out, get the proper starting position. I saw the right side call elbows at least. I'm not sure what the left called. But it's 15 seconds.
Might have been feet from Wes. Gets the start.
So he had
not there for him.
So yeah, it looks like he might have had a couple things going on there with the elbow on the right side, perhaps, and then it looks like the left side may have gotten for his heels not being down.
But realistically, there, a 2.5 kilo miss, that's not the worst feeling.
I mean, you didn't leave any kilos on the bar.
Exactly. You could maybe make the argument like the jumps could have been a little bit better and maybe you get energy conservation, but I wouldn't change anything.
But I don't.
In this situation, I would not have changed how they did anything.
No. 5 kilo PR attempt for Anthony. His best prior to was 200 kilos.
Another 7.5 kilo jump. He did the same from his opening to his second. One of our 3 remaining bench presses. A little sandbaggy, if you ask me.
That was a pretty easy third attempt. If it is a 5 kilo PR attempt, we don't know if he's touched it in training.
It looked like he
might be one of those things where since you've never touched it, you don't want to get too aggressive and take too big of a risk.
And realistically, another 2.5, probably another 5. I don't know.
And I sound like a broken record, but we have another PR attempt here, 2.5 kilo PR attempt on bench for Lorenzo here. Previous best at 205.
He took a hefty jump from his second, 10 kilos.
Yeah, a little bit unconventional to go 5 and 10, but maybe they weren't sure after the first, and then the second looked better. So they got a little more aggressive and opened up a little bit.
I'm sure you have as well. I've worked with lifters where the warm-ups, they're feeling kind of crummy, and then they hit their opener or something, and everything clicked.
Yep. Sometimes the second looks better than the first, and you go, well, I think we do have more.
Come on. He's able to lock it out. I didn't see any up and down from where I am.
No, it was a good lift. Good lift, and the referees agree. There was no downward movement. It slowed down. The lockout might have been a little uneven, but that's totally fine.
Looking at the replay.
Yeah.
Woo.
I don't think the whole of the bar dipped. I think because his lockout wasn't even, it kind of angled down.
I
don't
agree.
think if you watch the center knurling of the bar, that'll show you whether the whole of it dips, and it didn't look like it did.
And just like that, tonight is absolutely flying by. We have the final bench of the event. 215 kilos loaded on the bar. 474, we'll call it, for Jalen Falk.
Only my squat max. It's fine.
He's going to lock it out. I think he's going to get 3 whites for it.
I agree. Yep, and he does. That was the perfect call, in my opinion. I think that's right where you want to be.
That was a great bench session. We only had 2 misses. One of them was a 2.5 kilo jump.
Bench is usually the one where the parade of misses starts because of
51%.
Yeah. So a really, really successful bench session there.
So we've got the rankings up there, just waiting on them to update just a little bit. So if we look at the women's side of things, Mesa Gill is forecasted ahead by about 20 points on dots. But for second right now, Christy Hazard is slightly behind Leanne Lee. We're separated by just about an eighth of a dot. Then we've got Kira Thompson securely in fourth back at 5:16 forecast, and Bria Williams at 5:03. On the men's side, the current leader, Anthony Bilal. No, excuse me, Peter Huang with Anthony Bilal in second. And then it gets pretty tight where, shoot, Albert Lee's in last right now with a 5:20, and he's less than 3 behind third.
There's going to be a battle.
We're a couple misses away from guys losing $5,000.
Or guys winning $5,000. We want to be optimistic here, Alex.
You're right. We should be more optimistic. All right. So bench is concluded. We're going to do the same thing that we did before, where we're going to go to a 20-minute break. Of course, it's going to be once the platform's set up. They've still got to take something out of there real quick. But we are going to sign off, and we'll be back in about 20 minutes with the deadlift portion of the USA Powerlifting Pro Series Finals 2024. See you in a little bit.
This is the world's greatest powerlifting fan. This is the world's greatest powerlifting event. This is the world's greatest powerlifting event. This is the world's greatest powerlifting event. This is the world's greatest powerlifting event.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the deadlift portion of USA Powerlifting's Pro Series Finals here in 2024. We're going to jump right in. We have the opening attempt, 170 kilos for Bria Williams, excuse me. I got to watch her last warm-up of 150, and it looked pretty snappy. Honestly, that speed wasn't too far off from how that 150 looked in the warm-up room. I spent a little bit of time in there just trying to feel out the vibe. If I had to use one word, it was intense.
Yeah, I mean, this is where things are going to really ramp up, and, you know, it's where the rubber meets the road, and it's where they're going to make their money, so.
Everybody was laser-focused, including Christy Hazard, who just nailed her opening attempt at 172.5 kilos. That might have moved slower than her last warm-up.
And that moved pretty darn fast.
Right into it.
So Christy and Leanne here are actually within 0.168 dots points on the forecasted dots. Just a forecast, obviously, but they're just a little bit over 0.1 dots point within each other from second and third, with Leanne currently forecasted second.
Opening the same, 172.5, move just as quick. These UTSA boys are going to get this going fast. They were so quick on that last one. Christy wasn't even off the platform when bar was loaded for Leanne.
Yeah, they're moving. I wouldn't be surprised to see them employ a similar strategy to what they did during squat, where they took their time going out there on deadlift and, you know, got a little extra time between attempts.
I think after the openers, they're absolutely going to have to.
And I wouldn't be terribly shocked to see with Christiane and Leanne so close to each other that they're going to take similar deadlift attempts, because they're right there on dots, and so being able to, you know, match each other and see what you need to do, play with the lot number advantage, which it looks like Christiane has.
Nobody was more locked in, from what I could tell, than Mesa Gill. That was the first time I've seen her crack a smile in a little bit. In the warm-up room, she hit 160, I think, was like her second to last attempt. As soon as she set it down, she just looked at her coach and gave her a head nod. And I'm like, oh, this girl's locked in right now.
Yeah, she's in the zone. That gives her a 549 dots. She's currently in first after her opener.
Kira Thompson, 195 kilos, 430 pounds on her opening attempt.
An easy opener for Kira. So after the opening deadlifts, all of the women's lifters are within about 26 dots points of each other, which is not that much separation. Anything could happen with deadlifts, potential missed attempts, third attempt changes, so it's definitely a battle. May does appear to have first place pretty well at hand as long as she does what she needs to do.
And nothing crazy happens, right? It's not insurmountable if May were to miss, but I just don't really see May missing.
No, she's been very consistent today.
Albert Lee's opening attempt, 250 kilos, 551. Kind of a Frogger stance, moved pretty well. 3 white lights there. We're going to jump up 20 kilos, 270 going down the bar, just shy of 600 pounds. The opening attempt for Anas on bar.
So with successful openers, it would put Peter in the lead with a 541 and some change dots. Anthony would be in second. They would be separated by about 4.6 dots points. Third through sixth, if all openers are successful, will be separated by, you know, a margin of only 3.9 dots points.
And while we have a moment, because Anas is taking his time, like, we've got 6 guys. That's a lot of money separate. There's like the gaps get big. 6th place is going to take home $750, 5th at $1,000, 4th at $2,000, 3rd up at $5,000, and 2nd at $7,500. So that back half is battling for a couple $1,000s just by a couple kilos.
And Anas is taking his time, but he did look back at the clock, and having seen him lift before that, just part of his ritual for his deadlift. So he knows what he's doing there.
You know, I think he dropped it. Oh, he's going to get it 2-1. This might be jury intervention.
If an opposing coach could go to the jury and contest this if they chose to, I don't see anybody headed in that direction. I was curious. It was pretty close when he pulled the slack to the bar, almost coming off the floor as well. I don't think it did, but I think he cut it close with hanging onto the bar.
I think Anasa's grip might be something to look for. When I was in the back room, I saw he had a little bit of tape on 2 fingers on each hand. So I don't know, maybe his grip's just hurting. Maybe he ripped a couple calluses.
Yeah, and it is pretty humid in here, so it's possible that rub that raw a little bit. I know there was some lifters in the earlier session on deadlift that did have some issues with their calluses starting to get a little bit torn.
285 is on the bar. Opening attempt for Anthony Bilal. If successful, he's going to be in second place and in striking distance.
And it sure looks successful.
Yeah. 3 white lights for Anthony. I'm very excited for how this deadlift portion is going to shake out. Going up just a little bit more, 292.5, 645-ish pounds. Opening attempt for Lorenzo Wright.
And we're already almost through first attempt deadlifts already.
This is going to rip by. Great speed.
Very smooth, no issues with lockout. Sumo's usually harder off the floor, although depending on the stance with it, that changes and depending on some other variables. But
this is going to boil down to who blinks first, I think, for pretty much 3rd through 6th for the men.
So if Peter's successful here, he will be in the lead if he's able to make his opener here. That'll put him at a 541 and some decimals dots.
300 kilos, he's opening 4 times body weight. I turned to you to say that, and I missed it.
Good start. Kept positioning well. Looks like we have Jalen here.
Final opening attempt, 325 kilos, 716. Taking his time to get set up here. .716 shouldn't be allowed to move that fast.
No, that was excellent, and that puts him into 4th, I do believe, although I'm trying to double check that with everything else, but it does look like 4th place, yes.
So right into second attempts we go. The order is going to shake up a little bit here as we see the strengths that people have. Like their leverage is really starting to play effect here. We've got the biggest squatter for the lightweight women being the first one out to deadlift on second attempt. It's a 10-kilo jump here for Christy. 182.5, just over 400. That looks really good.
So Christy and Leanne, after openers, were within a very slim margin of each other, and Leanne went just 2.5 kilos above Christy, which is going to give her an advantage that she's going to see what Christy puts in for her third and be able to adjust her initial submission based off of that.
So for a little bit of poker there, Leanne really gets to see all the action come back around to her and see what she wants to do.
Now, obviously, there's going to be a chess match there with changed third attempt deadlifts, but it's going to give Leanne the advantage because she'll be able to put her initial in without making any changes.
And here's a massive jump from opener. 15 kilos for Bria Williams. And with the last 2 lifts that I've seen her do on deadlift, I'm not worried about this.
No, and her best deadlift's 190, so she's getting close. And
I think she's going to beat it.
There's a little bit of hamstring shake there for her, which usually indicates it's starting to get tough. But conventional pullers can usually grind it out pretty well, so I do think there's probably 7.5 there if she wants it.
And what's big about that lift for Bria right there is I know it's just forecasted, and we're going to give her the forecasted compared to Kira, but like that just jumped her. That put her in 4th. Leanne took a 12.5-kilo jump up to 185. Like you mentioned, that's going to separate her from Christy just a little bit.
And Christy put in 187.
That's
so
going to change.
With Leanne seeing that, I wouldn't be surprised. I obviously can't do the math offhand, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a 190, perhaps, and then make Christiane do something with it.
I think
and then
Christy's,
adjust yours. Or Leanne could go big and see what Christy does.
I think that 187 is a fake number.
It definitely is. They're definitely going to change that depending on what Leanne does.
May coming out, 10-kilo jump on her second attempt. The technician in bench, also kind of a technician with sumo. Smiling the whole way up. She knew she had that from the moment it cracked the floor.
So Leanne did put in 190, so I'll be curious to see what Christiane adjusts to, and then Leanne to adjust to that as well.
And what's fun for us right now, Dane, we don't have a lot of time before that happens.
No, the coaches back there are going to have to make some split-second decisions and hope that they make the right one and hope that they put on exactly what they need as much as they can without missing, because that's going to be key.
Big 15-kilo jump here for Kira. She gets the down command. Is she going to get that lift? Oh, 3 white lights. She does.
Successful lift. It looked like she might have shifted forward or locked her knees a little early, which would add to the degree of difficulty a bit there. Yeah, it looks like she locked her knees a bit early.
There's going to be some wild things happening with those third attempts for the women. That moved Kira back into fourth place over Bria. She's a little bit out of reach for perhaps going for third. I mean, if that was slower because of a technical difficulty rather than strength, it's not out of the question that she could try and jump onto the podium. But we'll get back to that in a sec because we have Albert Lee out here taking his second attempt at 260.
This is only 5 kilos off of his best.
And that seems fitting.
It was a little bit of a struggle off the floor, it looked like, but I can't tell if that's because he rushed himself. It looked like he kind of got a little Yankee right here on the replay right there and pulled himself out.
Yeah, the bar was a little bit away from him.
Yeah.
And in his defense, that's kind of how all of his lifts have looked today.
This is true.
282.5 for an us.
When you get that close to your max, it's going to be difficult.
12.5-kilo jump here for an us. Looking back at the clock, not taking as much time as he has been. Being a technician, taking his time. He knows how important this pole is. Locks it out. I think Anas is feeling really good here.
That was definitely a fast second for him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him potentially go up and try to match his best on that. That would follow the trajectory for everything else he's done today so far.
It's just kind of a matter of what does he need to pull to maybe bump himself up into another payout. Anthony Bilal jumping 20 kilos up to 305, 672. That was another really good second attempt.
And the second being only 10 kilos off of his best there. He's got some room to work.
With every attempt that goes in and goes up, you can feel the tension in here building. $310 on the bar. Second attempt for Lorenzo Wright, up 17.5 kilos. Pretty good off the floor. A little bit of a slower lockout. Three white lights for him, though.
So as we round up these seconds, they're actually for the women, May needs to be careful with her third because she's got a 549 dots currently. If she was to be unsuccessful, Leanne and Christiane aren't that far off. Now, if she makes it, it's going to put her up to 557.
Basically, don't miss.
Yeah, she really, really needs to ensure that the load on the bar is something she can do.
Peter Hong with 320. He gets his down command. I'm not sure. He gets 3 white lights. I wasn't convinced he was completely locked out. Looking at this replay, you know, he wasn't at first when I was looking at it, and he does get his shoulders back.
Yeah, the chief referee gave him enough time before he gave the down command that he had some extra time to be able to get his shoulders back before the command, so he was able to get that locked out.
Let's take a second here to appreciate this absolutely massive jump. 35 kilo increase from his opener for Jalen Falk, 360. He's trying to throw some haymakers here and move his way up.
And that was a PR for Jalen on a second, by the way.
I wouldn't have thought that.
That's just 357. And Christiane has not changed her third deadlift.
That's crazy.
No change has been entered. There's still time. The chief referee hasn't called loaded, but I do see her coach with her.
Well, she's had 2 handlers.
This is true.
But the other one's been with Jalen, so they're going to take this.
The bar's called loaded.
They're going to take 187. It's like they're trying to call Leanne's bluff. With how her second attempt moved, I don't think this is going to be an issue for her. And it's not. She's going to get it. 3 white lights there for Christy Hazard. So she's done everything she needed to today. She went 9 for 9. She posted a 544 dots, but it's not going to be enough. More than likely to. Obviously, she can't take over first, but I'm a little stunned that there wasn't another 2.5 or 5 on that.
Yeah, interestingly, with Leanne was already at a 545 dots after her second, and that third put Christiane's at 544.
So that just kind of feels like a concession.
So I'm not sure if there were other goals at play or what was going on there, but an additional 2.5 kilos gives Christiane the lead over Leanne or the advantage over Leanne per second.
And that's a difference of $2,500.
Because even with Leanne, if Leanne is unsuccessful, it doesn't matter.
Second.
She still has second place.
So when I see that makes me wonder why 190 wasn't loaded for Christiane. Because I think she gets 190 there, and then she just would have beat Leanne.
Yes, there may have been other strategy play. We don't know what her training looked like. We don't know how she was feeling, so we don't want to speak for her coaches or why they may have done what they did. But just from our observation, it would have seemed like 190, and based on how the third moved, 190 would have been successful.
Third attempt now for Bria Williams. Trying to move her way back into fourth over Kira Thompson, 195, 430. If she gets this, it's going to give her a dots of 531. Oh, what a good effort. I have no doubt she's going to get that in the near future, but that's going to lock her up in 5th place.
May is pretty firmly entrenched in first here. There doesn't seem to be a way, looking at the forecast and what's going on, unless somebody's hiding something in their back pocket that they could.
So it sounds like it's pretty all set. The only thing that could really happen is Kira could try to jump kick Christy. Final attempt for May Gill, 202.5, 446. Just this to secure her victory. Gets the down command. 2-1, good lift.
The chief referee called lockout. Could be knees or shoulders or both. And I can definitely see what the chief called there. The sides didn't call it. Looks like the knees were pretty close.
But irrelevant. She gets the lift 2-1. And with that, May has won USA Powerlifting Pro Series Raw Finals. She's going to take home $15,000.
So Kira's sticking with the 220, so she'll be in fourth. A little bit of a jump
committed.
up, could have passed Christiane potentially, but chose to stick with this, which is probably the right call after the second one being kind of difficult for her.
I would agree with that, but honestly, like, I'd kind of want to send it to try.
This is a PR deadlift, though.
That
Best
makes
is 217. So my guess is they want to try to get themselves a deadlift PR here.
I think she might have cramped up there. What a great day, though, for Kira Thompson, going 7 for 9 in her first Pro Series finals. All right, 6 deadlifts left. So we have our final positions for the women. Mesa Gill's going to win it. Leanne Lee's in second, Christy Hazard in third, Kira Thompson in fourth, and Bria Williams in fifth.
Now, for the men here, it's still really anybody's game for a lot of the positions. First
and second is pretty out there.
There's a lot of folks that are within just a few dots points of each other. So this will be
Albert Lee, third attempt, 267.5, 590.
the 2.5 kilo PR for Albert.
He gets the lockout. I think he's got the 2.5 kilo PR. 3 white lights.
So right now that puts him into fifth. However, if Anas is successful here, he would jump back into fifth.
10 kilo jump from the second attempt for Anas Anbar.
So 5 kilos off of his best, but a strategic move here, I would imagine, to try to get himself fifth place.
Trying to jockey in a position. It's a difference of $250 between sixth and fifth.
And I do note as well that it looks like Lorenzo currently has a 535 dots. This would put Anas at 538. So if he's successful and Lorenzo would miss, this could potentially get Anas into fourth place.
Fourth place.
So a strategic move here, potentially putting the pressure on Lorenzo to be successful to keep his spot in fourth.
Don't miss.
And we know Lorenzo, if they're trying to jump up additional positions, could take a risk at, sacrificing that spot.
Yeah, hand just ripped on him.
Yep.
So that's going to secure it for Anas, right?
Anas has sixth. Yep. Albert will be firmly in fifth.
Yeah, he had to have ripped the callus on his finger there. Or rather, maybe reopened it. 4 deadlifts remaining.
It looks like we just had an attempt change.
Well, let's make sure we got the right guy out there then.
Anthony should be out there with
Yep.
315.
Anthony Bilal coming out 315 kilos. He's trying to kind of run away with it.
So first place looks like they currently have a 556 dots. This would put him at 557. So it looks like it would temporarily put him into first.
Trying to go from second to first, trying to jump Peter Huang.
Both Peter and Jalen are waiting patiently to see what happens here, to see what they need to do.
Gets the down command. 3 white lights for Anthony.
So Anthony is in first for now with 557.347 dots.
3 pulls left.
I wouldn't be shocked to see Peter adjust his third attempt just slightly, because it does put him at 565. And there has been an attempt change.
They did.
Peter dropped his down to give him the minimum possible to.
I don't know if they got it in time.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Now the chief referee is stopping Lorenzo, and it did pop up on the board. So I think they're going to give him the attempt change.
And yep. And I agree with that, because there's a little bit of delay between the scoring table. They just have to tell the scoring table that they want to make an attempt change before bar is called loaded.
And the bar has to be called loaded. The clock has to start. All those things have to happen. And it didn't. And if they're not sure, benefit of the doubt goes to the lifter. So you have to consult and see what's going on. And they are going to load it for Peter This is the minimum possible he needs to put himself into first place, which is a very intelligent move to bring himself down to the load he needs to jump into first. They'll then put the pressure on Jalen for his third attempt to be successful there to take first.
Yeah, I got to imagine that 370 for Jalen might be a fake attempt. At the very least, I think he's going to try to adjust to go for at least second.
Yeah, and I mean, if he's unsuccessful here, Peter misses this, it's Jalen's.
Third attempt for Peter Huang, 322.5. And the kid
looked
didn't
fine
miss.
to me, and it is.
3 white lights, he did not miss. He's sitting in first place right now.
So Jalen would probably need to bump his third up by 2.5 kilos most likely to get to the 557, or really probably 558, 557.95 really, to beat Peter. We'll see if he does. I don't know what his true limit is. His best pull ever was 357. He PR'd that on his second with 360.
And it moved really well. Oh, there is an attempt change.
Yes, so it looks like the change has been made to 377.5.
That can't be the right attempt either. Because that's not going to... Well, does that move him in the second? No. That attempt change puts him from third to third. He needs to go up another 2.5. He can't even really try to pull for second. He can only pull for the win.
Yeah,
There's less than a dot between Anthony and Peter.
Yes, he'd have to go 380, I believe, to get himself where he needs to be. Maybe even a little more.
I think 380 gives it to him. Somebody pull up a dots calculator on Google.
But frankly, if it's not there for him and he knows that, he may be just conceding at that point. But it depends. They may be having a conversation right now to see whether they
I don't know if
do
you
it or
want to
not.
concede right here, but meanwhile, we have the third and final attempt, 327.5 kilos for Lorenzo Wright.
I didn't see anything I would call an infraction
Gets
there.
his down command. No lift, 2-1 on lockout. I could kind of see that from up here.
I could see potentially toward the end.
Looking at the replay, I think it's his shoulders. His knees, if anything.
Yeah, it was tough to see the knees from up here, but on the replay
call.
I could see those, yep. So it looks like Jalen's sticking with the 377.
So he's just kind of accepting third.
Though I do...
We're saying that, like, this is a sure thing. Just accepting third. It's still 832.
Yeah, I mean, it's 832 pounds. It's a huge PR after already PRing on his second attempt.
20 kilos.
It's nothing to be ashamed of what he's pulling here. And if he knows what he has, if he and his coach knew they didn't have the number they needed, take the pull, go 9 for 9.
377.5 for Jalen.
Still going home with $5,000.
Come on! Oh!
Not quite there. Good patience off the floor.
What a great effort there for Jalen Falk. Going to keep himself in third.
Yeah, he still goes home with third place either way.
So then looking at our order, on the men's side in sixth place is going to be Anas Anbar, taking home $750. In fifth is Albert Lee. Fourth, Lorenzo Wright. Third, Jalen Falk, which we just saw there. Second and first separated by less than half a dot, just over a half point.
Yeah.
Anthony Bilal in second, going to take home $7,500. In your winner of the 2024 USA Powerlifting Pro Series Final, Peter Huang, going to take home $15,000.
It really came down to, the strategy and attempt selection at the end, as we knew it would, and that battle for first couldn't get any closer.
Just don't miss. Peter didn't. He missed one bench, but it was not leaving any keys out there. I love sessions like this. This is a lot of fun. Got anything else you want to say, Dane?
No, it was a good session. It ended with just the right amount of drama, just the right amount of strategy and attempt selection that you'd expect out of a competition like this at this level.
All right, and with that, I think we're going to go ahead and sign off. Awards will still be coming up on the live stream here in just a few minutes. Dane and I are going to sign off. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight here in San Antonio, Texas, hosted by Texas Strength Systems. The 2024 USA Powerlifting Pro Series Finals Raw Open has come to a conclusion. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.
Where are y'all staying?
The Airbnb that's like really close by.
Oh, we'll probably just grab y'all from there.
What's an Airbnb?
Or from Cholula's. How long y'all think y'all gonna take? I'm gonna be a minute. Just let me know. You have my number. Text us and I'll make some moves.
All right. 3 weeks this year.
We know what the priority is. You're gonna be here. Oh, buddy, that's all right, bro. Y'all always let us down, and that's okay. I just respect y'all and let me down. I remember this when I was missing.
Let's start with the women's raw open. Women's, get out, move. Women's raw open. The bronze medal winner, Christian Hatcher. She receives the bronze medal and a check for $5,000. Peter.